My name is Savannah, and today we also have Nevin with us. He is going to be one of the new co-hosts of the Hack the Box Tampa Meetup. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Nevin to kind of introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nevin Beal. I'm a senior in college at a local university here. I'm an avid Hack the Box user that I've been using the platform for about 3-4 years, and I'm always striving to learn something new. So that's just a couple of things about myself.
Sweet. So today Nevin is going to be walking through WALDO. So if you have entered your username into the meetup form, you have been added to the server. And if you need to be still added, you can message in the Discord chats under events, and we'll make sure that you get added in. So we'll go ahead and give everyone a few minutes to kind of get added or get connected and get everything kind of like set up. And Nevin is going to be kind of doing the same as well. So I'm going to switch screens. I don't know. You might want to switch out of that lab management tab.
I'll just go to my desktop. There you go.
There we go. Okay. All right. So we'll give everyone a few minutes. I guess you want to make sure like your VPN is connected and everything real quick.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. It's connected.
We're good.
Okay. So let's wait. Let's wait till it's 6:33.
Okay.
My computer is. I still have it in Central Time Zone, so I'm like it's not 5:30.
That's why I run everything in military, so it's always military. I turned that in like freshman year of college, so no matter the time zone, I'm like, oh, I just go to a specific number, so I don't have to deal with time zones. But
I'm really bad with military time. It's not good. It's not good for me.
It's a struggle at first. Like it took me probably 3 months of realizing, and also waking up way too late or way too early for things. But once I got used to it, just sort of helped me. Like in a pretty good thing, like waking up early for college and waking up in general, and just making sure I'm on time for things.
Yeah. No, I'm like, all right. I'm like 19. All right. So let's add 7 to 12. That's how I do military time. I just kind of try to add it in my head.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, do you want to bring your screen up, and then right at 6:33, like you can start going through it, and then I'll make it your entire screen.
Okay.
All right, sweet. I'm just gonna switch it over to just you now.
Okay. Let me just clear my menus real quick. Okay. So once you're connected to Hollow, you should be able to see the IP address. The IP is 10.10.10.87, and that's the wrong terminal, so I'm just going to switch up. So to just test, make sure everyone's connected to the VPN without issues, you should be able to just ping that IP.
And do you want to just zoom in just like a little bit on your terminals?
Yep.
Sorry. I'm just going to leave now.
Let me just make it so it's a little bit more visible. That's a little too much. Okay, cool. Full screen. So once you're done and you are connected to it, the first thing to do in any sort of pen test is to start with like reconnaissance. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to do a quick Nmap scan. So I'm going to do Nmap, do a TCP connect scan, do a service scan. Oh, I lost my connection. And then I'm just going to do the IP. 7. I'm just going to add a couple more flags or ports. And scan all ports, and to just do a speed of 4, so I'm not scanning anything too quickly. And I'm going to output in a greppable file, just like ping.init. And while that's running, there is another really cool tool called RustScan. I do not have it on this sort of distribution of Kali, but basically RustScan is written in Rust, and it will quickly sort of just ping the ports on the machine you're scanning, and it will come back in like the span of like 10, 15, not even 10 seconds. So what I usually do is if I had RustScan, I'd run RustScan. see what ports are open, and then start enumerating more while my nmap scan's going forward. But since that's the case, I haven't had time to set up Rust scan, I'm just still stuck with this nmap scan. But we're already 50% of the way done. Okay. So what I'm gonna clear the screen, and I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger so it's easier for everyone to see. So if I cat that nmap.init, why is it ping.init? I guess it's ping.init. Okay. That didn't save correctly. So I'm just going to rerun that and just not save it because something happened there. But as you can see, there's some answer book already closed on port 65532. So there's already some sort of service running on TCP that sort of did not cooperate. Let me just check that. Okay, there we go. So as you can see that the ports open on the machine are 22. We have 80, which is running Nginx 1.12.2. We have port 888 that's filtered. That's running that weird Sun answer book service. So port 22 SSH is really usually not a good vector to start your sort of enumeration or sort of path to figuring out what's open and what's vulnerable on the machine. Since there is port 80 a web server, I'm just going to go straight to port 80. So I'm just going to open Firefox and go to the IP of 10.10.10.87. So you can see we're into this weird sort of page that has like a Where's Waldo sort of desktop background. And another unique thing, it has Waldo's face as a cursor, which sort of distracted me for a solid 10-15 minutes when I first did this box. But as you can see within this sort of web application, there is like an add and back and creating lists. So I can delete a list, I can add a list, I can rename a list. I can't rename that list, but if I add a list, I should be able to add something. Okay, I can rename that things in the list. So like thing 1, add thing 2, yada, yada, yada. So what I did first off is I just went to robots.txt to see if there's anything there. And as you can see, it just redirects me straight to list.html. So the next best thing for any web application I really turn to is Burp Suite. So I'm going to open back up Terminator, clear that, and just start Burp Suite and a smaller terminal because y'all don't really need to see Burp Suite's command. To run Burp Suite, just type out the words Burp Suite, hit enter, and you'll sort of pop up what this is. This is just saying it's not been tested on this version of Debian. Update, next. So temporary project, next, use burp defaults, click next. And then there's Burp Suite. So the thing with Burp Suite is you have to add a proxy on your web server. So I use Foxy Proxy. As you can see, there's a Burp Suite tab right there. So basically, if you've never used this before, you just go to like the Firefox or Mozilla add-ons, sort of that. Or if you just type Foxy Proxy on Google search, it'll come up right there. You just add the extension. Once you add the extension and it downloads, Burp runs default on localhost, so 127.0.0.1 on port 8080. So to add another one, you go back to Foxy Proxy, click Options, and then you see right here it says Add. Click Add. I'll just name this Burp2. It's going to be running at HTTP. I'm going to do 127.0.0.1 port 8080, and then we don't have to add any creds since this is just running and intercepting traffic on this port. So if I save that, you can see I now have that Burp2 proxy on my machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start spidering around this website and basically just click on things and sort of enumerate based on these buttons to see what's actually running in the background, and that will be picked up by Burp. So the first thing to do regarding that is go back to Burp Suite, and I'm going to go to the proxy. I'm going to turn the intercept off. And once the intercept is off, it's not going to be intercepting traffic. Therefore, I can sort of move around the website without it catching every request I'm making to the website. So if I go back to the list manager, I'm just going to start doing things again. So I'm going to type thing 1, add. I'm going to type thing 3. If I could spell English, thing 3. There we go. I'm going to delete these. I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on list 3. I'm going to add stuff to list 3. Just going to start adding random things just to try and get as much to just try and see what's running in the background as much as possible. Another thing I usually do is run view. It's always important to view the page source, but this is typically just displaying the style and the lists. Even if you go back to the main page, there's nothing really useful in the page source because it's all really pretty much just implementing the face.png, so the cursor, and then just all the information regarding the background, where's WALDO image right here. So after moving around and sort of enumerating for a bit, I'm going to go back to Burp Suite. And as you can see, if I go to my proxy, if I go to my HTTP history, I didn't turn my proxy on. So that's one major step that I typically forget to do as well, is just turn your proxy on so now that you're intercepting traffic. So if I go back and do that thing, do everything, so delete, add, 1, 2, 3, add, go back, add list, and now I should start getting things. There we go. So as you can see, when I'm doing all these actions, there's specific sort of post requests being made to the website. So we have a file read, we have a file write, we have a dir read, and that's all that I'm really picking up. So as you can see in the dir read, it's enumerating ./.list, and it looks like it's returning the what's actually in a directory. So based on my common sort of knowledge and sort of reading this .php, it's sort of reading out a directory, which sort of makes sense based on the name of the file. Same with file read, you can see it's actually reading out a specific file within, it's actually reading out list 1, and list 1 has a new item. File write is actually writing to an item, so it's actually adding to the list number 1, and then the data is position 1 is adding the new item. /20 is just a space in URL. So based on this, what I actually try to do next is I'm going to send these to Repeater and start playing around with them to see if there's a way to sort of do directory traversal, because it looks like based on dir read and file read, I can just input. Let me actually send these to Repeater first. Repeater, file read, Repeater, file write, Repeater. So Repeater is just a tool to send a request based on this post request. I'm just repeating this request to the server again. So what happens if I just do that? If I'm trying to go back to the base, you can see it's actually going back in the base directory for the web application. To just show the difference, if I go up 1, it's actually doing nothing. So that tells me that there's something blocking my directory traversal. The same thing with sort of the directory. Sorry, that was the file read. That's the file read. So if I can go back in file, there's nothing in file. So based on this, it looks like I'm going to have to sort of use the directory dir read.php file to do directory traversal in this web application, and then based on what I find on the web application, use the file read.php to read that specific file. So based on that, as you can tell, when I try and just do, say I want to look and see if I can access the users on the machine and the etc password, it's false. So that's not working. So in my mind, there's something blocking me. So a quick little trick about directory traversal is that a lot of filters tend to strip off just that, the ... because that's common. So when an attacker is sort of working through a pen test or working on a box or trying to enumerate a web service, it's typical to see ... for a brute force. So a lot of times the filters just strip off that ... to sort of hinder the ability to do a brute force and to sort of continue to span on with the directory traversal. So if they're trying to strip off 1, my next step is to do 2 and just double everything. Because if it's stripping off a ... that means if it strips off that ... I'm left with a ... That doesn't really make sense with me speaking it, but now that I'm talking a lot to myself, but basically what I'm trying to say is that it's going to strip off that slash and 2 of those dots and leave me with that. So therefore I'm able to continue my directory traversal and just sort of outwit the filters. So if I do that, do that, and do that. And as you can see, I was able to bypass the filters, and now I'm in sort of the root directory of this application. Something that sort of sticks out to me is the docker.env. So this sort of leads me to believe that I'm in a container. So therefore, it looks like based on the Docker environment file, we're going to have to be escaping a container sometime in the future. So my next step is to go to the home file to see what's there, because the home is typically where you're going to go because that's where the user accounts are going to be. So if I go to home, you can see that there's a user nobody. So my next step is to go to nobody. I have .ssh, I have .viminfo, and I have .usertext. So based on this information, there's two ways to actually get the user.txt flag. So I can actually use that file.read to read out the user.txt flag in Burp Suite and actually capture that flag via Burp Suite. So to just show you, if I just copy this current path right here, and I copy, I go to the file read, and I just paste it there. And if I just append the user.txt, and that's not working. Okay. That's fun. So I'm going to go to plan B. So plan B is just actually getting the SSH keys, because you see that there's an SSH directory. So if I go to .ssh, I have .monitor, I have .authorized keys, and I have .node hosts. The two that stick out to me are authorized keys and monitor. So first off, I'm going to go to .monitor. And I actually can't read that because I'm in the wrong directory PHP. So now that I have this information, I'm just going to do .monitor just to make my life easier. So we're in the dir read. The mistake I've been making these past couple minutes is I'm not going to the file read. So like as I said earlier, this dir read is actually reading directories. So basically think of it as like the ls command. It's reading out the entire directory. The file read is actually reading out the file specifically in that directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this monitor and just see what's in that file using the file read. So if I cat that, if I just paste that, there you go. There's an RSA key right there. So I'm just going to, the only issue with this before I continue going is that it's in JSON format. So you're going to have to sort of de-JSONify it, which is easy if you just copy and put it on like a online JSON beautifier. So if I do like JSON cleanup tool, I'm still on my proxy, JSON decoder. I go to here, JSON decode. Why is that making? Okay. So I'm just going to copy that. And then I'm going to go back and just sort of enumerate that last sort of the authorized host file to see what's actually in there. So if I go back to Burp Suite and I change .monitor out for, I think it was authorized keys, and I send that request, it looks like there's another SSH key, however, it's for monitor. So that gives us one user monitor. So my next step is to basically, now I have an SSH key, an RSA key, and I also have a username, which is monitor at WALDO. So my next step is to download that SSH key and then log into the machine using that SSH key as monitor. So I'm going to go back to that JSON beautify. I'm going to copy it because I think it's still out of the wrong format, if I remember correctly. Let me try a different website. Go here. Why is it showing errors? Oh, because it's not in JSON. That's why. Sure. So let me just try and get this back. Monitor. Send that. Copy the whole JSON. Go back up to here. Paste that in. And get rid of these /n's. And then that should be the private key. So what I'm going to do I'm going to Control C. I'm going to go back to my local machine. I'm going to touch just like auth underscore keys. And I'm going to nano auth keys. So nano is a text editor. Once I'm in the text editor, I'm just going to paste the RSA key, but it didn't format correctly. So I'm just going to clean it up real quick. So what I'm just going through, I'm going through and getting rid of the //ns, just that's the format for new line. So every time there's a new line, I'm just taking out the /ns and just hitting enter and just appending it to the bottom. There's probably an easier way to do this. It's just for some reason, the JSON beautifiers are not working in my favor right now. So I'm sort of doing the old fashioned way, which is a little more time consuming, but not everything works all the time. So after I just clean this up, and I missed something. Okay, this is fun. I accidentally just deleted a character, so I'm going to go back and figure out what I deleted. So FFO. I'm just going to recopy that. And do I have exit out of that? Go here. Do I have Sublime? I don't have Sublime downloaded. Sorry, gedit. Auth keys. Okay. Let me see. So my current issue, the dilemma I'm facing, is getting the getting the RSA key in proper format, because if I try and copy it into here, I should, maybe gedit will be more compliant. Gedit was not that much better. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I think I have it earlier. Cat auth keys. So if I nano auth keys, paste that, that's just not going in the right format. Let me try one more website before I go a different route. Legit line 1 and column 2. Okay. Let me see. That's because it's not a JSON format. Let me go here. Let me get rid of all the ends. So, new line. Let me do this real quick. So a little bit of technical difficulties, but that's just the way things go sometimes. So I'm going to get rid of all the ends, which are the new lines. Let me see. I forgot to click there. Let me go there. Okay, so after that, this is what your RC key should look like. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to Nano, and if I make this full screen, there we go. That's what the RSA key should be looking like. So after that, I'm just going to save that, exit out of there. I'm going to add Chmod, so I have to change the permissions of it. So if you don't change the permissions of it regarding the key so that only the root user can access it, you won't be able to SSH in using the keys, or the owner of the key, so sorry, accessing it. So after I change the mod of that, change the permissions, I'm going to SSH in, tag I to use the auth keys, and I'm going to try monitor at the 10.10.10.87. As you can see, permission denied publicly. So based on that, there's something wrong with either the key or the username, but I know it's the wrong username. So what I'm going to go back to is Burp Suite, and I'm going to file read and see if I can get the etc password out, because there must be another user. So after I get the etc password out, I'm just going to copy that whole JSON format file, go back here, and there, and if you sort of look, if I control F and go to like home, you can see that there's home nobody. So that means there's another user with a home directory, so nobody. So nobody's the other user that we're going to want to log in as. So if I go up here, ISSH in, it's nobody instead of monitor. Public key. Invalid format. Okay. This is fun. Let me see. What's wrong with my auth keys? Mission 9. Okay, so there's something wrong with the format of my key. Give me 1 second. Because that looks like it should be right on my end. Okay. So, based on that, let me just check, because I'm pretty sure I have another key in this machine. I do not. Okay. So the main issue I'm struggling into is trying to get the RSA key in the correct format. So basically, that's the problem I'm trying to get around, because I was able to do it earlier, and for some reason my formatting is not the same. So if I go home, monitor, sorry, home, nobody, .ssh, that's file read. That's dir read, so I'm going to go here. .monitor. So I'm going to do .monitor. So that has a path in it instead of file. And that's still not working. Why is that not working now? Let me see. So there's another way to do it based on a glog by OXDF, and this is basically using curl in a format called JQ-R, so a JSON formatter. So I'm just going to go through that format because I'm struggling with the RSA keys. So you can also use curl to send requests. So basically what I'm going to be doing is sending curl to send a request to those using those .php files, and then accessing another portion of the file on the web server. So for example, if I just do, say, curl tag s, and then I'm setting, so that's silent, so I'm not sending anything. If I do tag x for post, tag d, I'm using the file equals, so I'm trying to read out the files. If I do the same sort of format, I do home/nobody/.ssh.monitor, and then I pipe that to the file.read. So 10.10.10.87. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. /file read.php. And then this is where the JSON beautifier tool is. So I'm going to do JQ tag r.file. I'll leave that up there for a second, but as you can see, as I hit enter, I'm actually able to get the RSA key in correct format. So you can do it the other way via Burp Suite, and I've done it the other way via Burp Suite, but for some reason, I'm either struggling with the syntax or the format. So I'm just going to go back to the other method I know that works, which is just using curl, sending the data. So sending data for the file equaling the .monitor, which is the RSA private key, piping it to the file read. So the file read is going to read that file out. And then we're just using the JQ.R as a JSON sort of beautifier formatter tool to pull out this information. So now if I copy this, correctly, let me see, copy, ls, if I do, let's just say touch auth underscore keys to, or just authorized keys, authorized key. If I paste that, if I change the permissions again, now if I try and SSH in, instead of using monitor, I'm going to use nobody. And there, auth keys invalid format. Why is it being invalid format? That's sort of blowing my mind because
Make sure there's no spaces in that key at the end or anything.
that's probably the whole thing that's been happening this whole time. Let me see. It's unwritable because I'm not in sudo. Control C, Control X.
And then you change the permissions as well, right?
Yep. So it's just, let me just do this one more time.
I just saw Antonio's comment on the YouTube stream. He said, "Hi, Nevin. It's your boy Antonio."
It's Tony. I love Tony. Let me see. Auth 2. Now let me try that. Because for some reason, I think you're right, and I just forgot about the spaces.
Wait, are you meaning to use auth 2? You just put auth underscore keys?
Yep, you're right. You're right. Thank you. Still public key.
No, you put a key, not keys.
Oh, just spelling errors. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so back again. So my issue was there are spaces at the end of the file. So if I go here, zoom in. So basically, to fix this issue, you're just going to want to go to the end of that end RSA private key and just hit delete, and just delete out the spaces, because that's the whole issue I've been having. Because the RSA keys hit spaces, it's going to say it's not the correct format, which is just going to throw issues and won't let you work. So now that I'm Waldo, if I ls, I'm not in the right shell. If I ls, why is my shell not working? Okay, that's not responding. And looks like my connection might have died. Yep, so let me just go back to my VPN. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now that I'm Waldo, sorry, my connection quickly died. I can see there's user.txt, so I'm just going to cat out that user.txt to get the user flag. And bam, there's the user flag. So the next step, basically, you can try, like my current method is using like limpes or linenum. I'm still learning about penetration testing. So sort of doing the automated scripts just to figure out what's sort of available to escalate privileges. You can sort of look for the SUIDs. If I do like find root directory type file, tac perm, tac O4000, ls2 devnull. And there's nothing set as SUIDs. I can also do like sudo -l, see if there's any sudo privileges in Waldo. There's nothing. The next step that I typically go to is sort of see what's listening on the machine. So I do netstat tac at, I think it's ln. There you go. Let me just fix this formatting. So as you can see, the machine, I'm looking for all the ports, all the sockets listening. I'm looking for all. So A is tac all sockets. Tac L is listening. Tac N, I think is name or like sort of numeration, and then tac T is TCP. So as you can see, there's port 80, which is HTTP. There's port 22, which is SSH, and then there's the 8888, which is the random service that was filtered. But something that stuck out to me is that you can see on 8888, there's a connection from here to 10.14.2. So if I go to this tab and make it bigger, and I do like IPA, you can see my connection is 10.14.2. And I have two SSH connections to this machine. Therefore, it's like, oh, now I know that port 888 is SSH is running on a higher port. So another thing I can do is like, remember that .monitor key? If I go to .ssh, lstack LA, was either monitor or authorized hosts, authorized keys. You can see that there's another SSH key for monitor.waldo. So my next step is to see if I can just sort of even just SSH in locally on that port via Waldo. Via monitor. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to and monitor SSHing into the port 888 as monitor using this SSH key. So I'm just going to clear the tab and I'm going to SSH tag I dot monitor, and then I'm going to do 127. Sorry, dot monitor at 127.0.0.1. Yes. As you can see, pulls up a big sort of ASCII art picture of where's Waldo. Let me just scroll this down. Okay. So now that I'm here, my next step is to sort of look around. If I do like ls, I have app dev and bin. If I try and cd, you can see it's restricted. So it's rbashes also. So rbash means I'm in a restricted version of restricted version of bash, which means not all the commands are going to be available. So I'm going to be sort of limited to what I can do. One thing you can do is sort of like ls, and if I do like /bin, I can just read what's in the bin. So we have red, we have rnano, which is a restricted version of nano, restricted version of red, ed, most, and ls. So something that caught my eye was the red, specifically because when I was searching around GTFO bins, and if I go to GTFO bins and I type, say, ed, you can see it can be used to sort of break out of a restricted environment by spawning an interactive system shell. So my next step is to see if I can break out of this restricted environment. So I'm going to just type ed, and I'm going to type the exclamation point /bin/sh. So if I do ed, or sorry, red, because I'm using the restricted version because ed's not on the machine. If I do bin/sh, so whom is not found, but as you can see, I'm now in a more sort of open environment. One thing to do is if I my next step is to sort of see what the path is to see if I can sort of reset the path to make it so that it's not restricted to the current restriction on the shell. So if I just echo my path, you can see it's home monitor bin, home monitor app dev, home monitor app dev v.01. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to export and reset my path to just like the default Kali path. Export path. And the one thing I'm going to add is also the user portion, so that in case the executables are in the user aspect of this shell, it can sort of allow me to use those and not just restrict me to everything set in user. Because if things are in root and not in user, I might be sort of screwed trying to be able to run a certain command. So I'm just going to type /root/local/bin, type that. And then that's sort of the path for, this is the default for most Linux applications and instances. And I'm just adding root on top of it. So if I hit that, now I should be able to use commands like cat and other things like that. So if I do ls, first I'm going to go to bash. So now I'm back into the bash CTY. If I go here, you can see that there's an app dev, a monitor, and a file named Steve. So we did look into monitor, and monitor just had the sort of the restricted commands, but as you can see, there's nothing really left in there. So what my next sort of aspect is going to Steve. There's nothing in here. So my next thing to look at is sort of app dev. Nothing in app dev. So I'm going to go to monitor, and I'm going to, sorry, I actually went back a portion when I wasn't supposed to go back. So in monitor, I'm going to go to app dev. And so app dev and bin. So bin is where the restricted commands were, the restricted executable in binary. So if ls, most, red, and rnano. My next step is to go to app dev. And I go to app dev, and as you can see, there's a executable called log monitor, and there's sort of the decompiled portion of an executable. So there's log monitor.c, there's makefile, and there's v.o.1. Since it's a directory, just out of curiosity, I'm going to go into that directory, and you can see there's log monitor-o-0.1. If you read out the permissions, I have executable and read on it. So I'm able to execute it, and if I go back to the other portion, log monitor, you can see I have read, write, and execute. Or just write and execute. So, but when I try, so what I typically do is when I see the decompiled portions of an executable, my next step is to sort of figure out, okay, what's the sort of the juicy code or what's actually in this executable that's making it run. So I'm going to read out the C file, and I'm cast not found. I'm going to use most because most is one of the things in bin and not cat. So reading the code, you can see the print usage. It's going to do tac A. So whenever you run the file without any programs or any flags, it's just going to display the usage is that file name with these flags and then possibly help on a new line. If I scroll down, you can see that what the flags are. So we have tac H. My guess is tac H is help. So based on the information, it's sort of this common sort of sense, like H is usually help, and also you have tac help as well. So I do log monitor, I do tac help. There's that. My next step is, okay, what happens if I do tac H? Same thing. What about tac A? Can I open file? So it's trying to open some sort of file. Based on the name of the executable, my guess is it's the log file. So if I go to v.0.1, I'm going to try the same things with this executable. I do tac H. Okay. If I do tac A, and as you can see, it's reading some sort of log file. Basically, if you just SIGs, for example, if you just copy this, or if you Google anything, you'll realize that this is auth-log, and auth-log is a sort of log within Linux that tracks the user's accessing, the sort of session access. One thing interesting thing about that is it's based on, you need to be root to actually access this file. So that sort of leads me to my next step is, okay, I need to find a way to escalate my privileges in a way based on what I have so far. Because like, if you can try and like curl, say linpeas, winpeas, other priv-esque automation tools, and you won't be able to execute them because it's restricted. We tried again, sudo attack L, there's no sudo, there's nothing like that. You try and read like etc. If you even look at like, let me see, you look at cron tabs. I can't use cat, I keep forgetting. There's nothing on cron tabs as well. If I go to like user bin to look at like executables, there's nothing major that sticks out. Docker's there, maybe we could escalate via Docker, but like again, if I try and run Docker, the command's not found. Oh, so it is found. But short story sweet, like just to get to the short point of the sort of enumeration process, what we're looking at is basically capabilities. And that sort of played out with the whole log monitor running it, and it's accessing a auth log, but you're not in a root. The file doesn't have an SUID, and the file is also not being run from root. So there's some sort of capability on the file that is allowing it so the user can actually run the file as and read or write to a specific portion as root. So based on that knowledge, if you do a little research, there's a thing in Linux called capabilities or file capabilities. I'm just going to go back home. I'm going to go to monitor, and I'm going to appdev. And I'm going to go to the v.0.1 because it's the one working. So my next step is basically get caps not found. Why is get cap not found? Okay. Let me echo my path because my path might have gone. My path did get reset. Okay. So my path did not go according to plan, so I'm just refixing that because once I have the cat path and actually putting in the correct portion, there we go. And now I can be able to cast something like that. Okay. So to make my life easier, again, I just didn't correctly reset my path. So now that I reset my path, I have access to all the executables in bin, sbin, the user local bin, stuff like that. So back onto the capabilities, there's a portion called getCap. And getCap basically displays the capabilities on the queried files. The command to run to sort of look if a file has a capability that is allowing to access a restricted portion or restricted file is getCap, tac R. I'm going to do just the root directory, and I'm going to do standard error 2/dev/null. As you can see, we have monitor, which is the monitor-o.1, which has the extended capability, which is allowing to read auth log. And then we also have tac, which is another version of cat, if I remember correctly. But just to double check, we're going to go here. So tac is just another version for reading out files. So file read tac s, probably not the best place to do and get GTFO bin, so we just do tac. So let's use the concatenate and print files in reverse. This command will write each file to standard output, the last line first, but no file specified when this command will read the standard input. So based on this knowledge, it's reading out things in reverse. So if I just tac, say like etc/password, okay, I can read out etc/password, but it's in reverse. What about like etc/shadow? Okay, so I have a shadow and I have a root hash. But based on this knowledge, I can try and crack the root hash, but to my luck and like previous knowledge of doing this box, I wasn't able to crack the root hash at all with rocku, with seclist, stuff like that. So the next best thing is to just sort of read out the root.txt file. And then there's the flag. And that's pretty much the box. One thing to know is like if you read various different blogs and various different people on the internet, they did update, I think, the linenum.sh to actually incorporate the get cap based on the CTF style challenge. So it's just showing the true power of capabilities on files within the Linux system. But basically, since the capability set for attack and log monitor, you can reach out to anywhere without restrictions on this box to read files, which is why I'm just going to fix this and not put it in reverse. So that's how it should actually be. So what I did is just I read out the etc shadow and then I piped it to attack again to unreverse it. So we have the root hash, we have the Steve hash, monitor, and app dev. But the main thing to focus on is since it's I haven't seen anyone get root on this box, but it might be possible. The main thing you're looking for just for completion of the box is catting out the root and then root.txt. And then there you go.
Sweet. Yeah, no, that's the end of the box. Thank you, Nevin, for kind of walking through that, and we're excited to kind of have Nevin as the new co-host of the Tampa Meetup. So in the future, if there's any other speakers that if anyone else wants to speak, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have new speakers as well. And thank you everyone for kind of joining today. We will have the recorded YouTube thing today on our channel as well. So if you didn't get to see everything from the beginning, you can check it out on the YouTube channel.
Awesome.
And the server will be up for probably like 30 more minutes. But if anyone needs additional time, just reach out on Discord and we can definitely make that happen. But it does expire after a certain amount of time. Great. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Adios. Thank you.